Good morning, evening, or night. Wherever you are, welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Tuesday, 29th April 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. Japan is actively bolstering its international presence through strategic partnerships and diplomatic endeavors. Agreements focusing on semiconductors and clean energy have been formalized with Vietnam. Lawmaker Takaichi emphasized the need to strengthen supply chains between Japan and Taiwan during a meeting with Taiwan's president. Former Defense Minister Shigeru Ishiba is also working to cultivate stronger relations with Vietnam. Ewaya and UN Secretary General Guterres jointly underscored the importance of UN Security Council reform, demonstrating Japan's commitment to multilateral diplomacy. Concerns are growing in Japan that potential tariffs imposed by the United States could inadvertently push other nations towards China, which could destabilize regional security in the region. Domestically, Japan is set to honor the achievements of 3,990 individuals at ceremonies scheduled for May 9 in Tokyo. These spring honors will recognize figures such as IOC President Thomas Bach and former U.S. Ambassador to Japan Bill Hagerty. The passing of Okagi Hayashi, Japan's oldest citizen at 115 years old, due to heart failure, has been reported. A system failure affected Sumitomo Mitsui ATMs, and the cause of the disruption is currently under investigation. Bullet train services in western Japan experienced a 2-hour suspension after a person was struck by a train. News has emerged of a climber who required rescue twice from Mount Fuji within a 4-day period due to altitude sickness. An exhibition will showcase personal items belonging to an A-bomb victim who died soon after enlisting in the Imperial Japanese military. US historian Brian Riggs' account of WHAM atrocities has generated controversy and death threats within Japan. There is also considerable excitement surrounding the potential for a Japanese horse to win the upcoming Kentucky Derby. Turning to Vietnam, the nation has solidified its relationship with Japan through agreements focusing on semiconductors and clean energy, signaling closer cooperation between the two countries. India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is currently in London, working to strengthen trade ties with the UK through discussions with business leaders and ongoing free trade agreement, FTA, talk. Meanwhile, the US Trade Agency has placed India on a priority watch list due to concerns about intellectual property rights, even as trade discussions continue. India is also focusing on defense, illustrated by the Rafale Marine fighter jet deal, aimed at modernizing its aircraft carrier capabilities and addressing maritime challenges from China and Pakistan. These new jets are intended to replace the older, accident-prone MiG-29 Kuwait. In Kashmir, following a fatal attack targeting Hindus, India has closed over half of the tourist spots in the region. Tensions are high with Pakistan across the Kashmir border, involving diplomatic disputes and cross-border incidents. The US and China have urged de-escalation after recent attacks. India has again accused Pakistan at the UN of being a rogue state supporting terrorism. Turning to Pakistan, the country remains locked in tensions with India, particularly along the Kashmir border, with ongoing diplomatic disputes and skirmishes. India has accused Pakistan of supporting terrorism, especially after a recent deadly attack in Kashmir, and has labeled Pakistan a rogue state at the UN. These tensions are compounded by cross-border incidents, leading to calls for de-escalation from both the US and China. Israel's Shin Bet director, Ronen Bar, will resign on June 15, 2025, amidst tensions with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who had considered firing him after the Hamas attacks. Israel is accused at the International Court of Justice, ICJ, of obstructing UN aid to Palestinians in Gaza and undermining international law, a claim Israel disputes, citing bias. Amnesty International accused Israel of committing live-streamed genocide in Gaza, a charge Israel vehemently denies. The ICJ also holds hearings on Israel's aid restrictions in Gaza. ICC judges have ordered secrecy around new arrest warrant applications in the Palestine case, limiting public statements by prosecutor Karim Khan. Recent Israeli strikes in Gaza, violating a ceasefire, caused at least 40 deaths and increased conflict with Hamas, resulting in civilian casualties. Video footage shows combat during an Israeli raid in Dura, in the West Bank. Al Jazeera reported on Israeli claims about tunnels in Gaza's Philadelphia corridor. United Kingdom's former Prime Minister Tony Blair has voiced strong disapproval of current net zero policies, predicting their failure and advocating for carbon capture technologies. SSBC, a prominent bank based in the UK, has increased its provisions for bad loans by $200 million, attributing the decision to escalating trade tensions and the looming threat of an economic downturn. Associated British Foods, ABF, the parent company of Primark, witnessed a decline in share value following a decrease in UK sales and market share, accompanied by recession warnings influenced by US trade policies. In policy news, the UK government intends to block foreign sex offenders from seeking refugee status. Eurovision winner Nemo, following a recent UK court ruling on transgender women, has become a vocal advocate for transgender rights. Amidst ongoing tensions, Ukraine reported a series of Russian drone strikes targeting civilian areas, causing casualties, including the tragic death of a 12-year-old girl. In response, Russia proposed a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine to align with the WHAM anniversary. Ukraine, however, rejected this proposal, demanding an immediate 30-day truce instead. Finland's president, Alexander Stubb, has called for intensified pressure on Russia concerning the conflict in Ukraine. He also warned against the Finlandization of Ukraine, while highlighting diminishing patience from President Trump regarding the situation. Turning to North Korea, the nation's acknowledged involvement in the Ukraine conflict has significantly intensified speculation about a potential summit between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Malta's controversial Golden Passport scheme has been ruled illegal by the European Court of Justice. The court determined that selling EU citizenship violates EU law. Nations cannot grant nationality based on payments or investments. Malta is now mandated to end its Cash for Citizenship program and fast-track naturalization scheme. Pakistan is currently navigating a tense period, with India fueled by accusations and border incidents. Defense Minister Kavaya Mohammad Asif has warned of a potential military incursion by India, leading to increased security along the border regions. Simultaneously, Pakistan is advocating for the continued protection of the Indus Waters Treaty. The situation intensified with the detention of an Indian border guard by Pakistani forces, occurring amidst discussions in India regarding potential retaliatory actions following a fatal terrorist incident. Adding to the complexity, Pakistan has asserted that it shot down an Indian drone near the Kashmir border, claiming a violation of its airspace, an allegation that India has not yet addressed. In other news from Pakistan, an oil tanker explosion in the southwestern part of the country tragically resulted in 2 deaths and injuries to 56 individuals. Syria is grappling with escalating sectarian tensions as clashes near Damascus, specifically in a Druze-populated suburb, have left at least 13 dead. Druze leaders are holding the government accountable for the violence. The clashes involve Druze gunmen and pro-government fighters, highlighting the persistent struggle to protect minorities. Meanwhile, at the UN, Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shaibani, announced Syria's commitment to deepening its relationship with China, aiming for a strategic partnership. Vietnam's past continues to echo in present-day relations and perceptions, particularly regarding the Vietnam War. The conflict's photographic record had a profound effect on American opinions of the war, the nation, and its soldiers. Structures in Ho Chi Minh City, once occupied by U.S. staff, now serve as tangible symbols of the war and Vietnam's ensuing progress. Despite improving diplomatic ties, U.S. officials are choosing not to participate in the primary public ceremony marking the war's conclusion in Ho Chi Minh City. The war's enduring personal impact is evident in stories like one family's discovery of the circumstances surrounding a grandfather's death in a Vietnamese prison. Yemen has experienced a surge in civilian casualties due to US military actions aimed at restoring freedom of navigation in the Red Sea, with 68 deaths reported in a U.S. bombing of a detention center in Sa'ada. The U.S. Defense Department is currently assessing an attack on a migrant facility in Sa'ada that resulted in dozens of deaths, with the Houthi militia attributing the attack to an American strike. Further escalating pressure on the Iran-backed group, the U.S. imposed sanctions on 3 vessels and their owners for delivering oil and gas to Yemen's Houthis. The Philippines saw a visit from Japan Minister Shigeru Ishiba, aimed at bolstering their alliance amid regional anxieties about China's increasing power. As the May elections approach, the Philippines plans to cut rice prices in half, a move intended to aid voters, but criticized as potentially favoring government-supported politicians. Shifting to religious matters, Cardinal Luis Tagle of the Philippines is a potential candidate for Pope. However, his previous stances on the drug war and handling of abuse claims have generated debate. France expressed its disapproval of Israel's ban on French delegations. Israel clarified it welcomes visits not organized by groups backing terrorism. Finland's President Alexander Stubb is deeply involved in the Ukraine peace efforts. Stubb is communicating with Ukrainian President Zelensky and former U.S. President Trump. He warned Russia against escalating aggression. Malaysia has delayed expanding its sales tax to ease the burden on businesses facing economic uncertainties. The Forest City Development Project is experiencing pandemic-related delays and bankruptcy issues. Family offices may offer investment opportunities for recovery. Turning to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is facing increasing pressure to address rising inflation. The Bank of Canada is expected to announce further interest rate hikes to combat this. Public discourse is focused on the balance between economic growth and social support programs. Across the Atlantic, the United Kingdom is grappling with the aftermath of recent parliamentary debates on Brexit. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is working to stabilize trade relationships with the European Union. New immigration policies are being scrutinized for their potential impact on the labor market. In China, the government has announced new measures to stimulate economic growth following a period of slower than expected expansion. These measures include tax incentives for tech companies and infrastructure investment. The government's approach to managing its relationship with Taiwan remains a central focus of international observers. The Netherlands recently faced an embarrassing situation when a municipality unknowingly discarded an Andy Warhol print of former Queen Beatrix from the 1980s. The artwork's estimated value reaches tens of thousands of dollars. Brazil is seeing a significant investment in its cocoa sector, with one farmer launching a $300 million project to modernize cocoa farming in Bahia. Simultaneously, Brazil convened a BRICS gathering, facilitating discussions among member states on critical international matters such as the conflict in Ukraine, the ongoing crisis in Gaza, and the wider economic repercussions of the Trump trade policies. These discussions aim to align BRICS strategies before the Leaders Summit in July. Mexico and the United States have solidified their commitment to shared water resources through a new agreement concerning the Rio Grande. The accord reinforces the benefits both countries derive from the 1944 treaty. This treaty governs the allocation of water from the river, ensuring equitable distribution. Iran has offered to meet with European signatories of the 2015 nuclear deal, possibly in Rome this Friday, before further discussions with the U.S. turning to Saudi Arabia. The nation has denounced Israeli settlement actions during a hearing at the International Court of Justice. Solomon Islands Prime Minister Jeremiah Manela has called for restraint as his government prepares for a no-confidence vote, now postponed until May 6. Asian markets saw gains following a calm day on Wall Street, though worries about trade tariffs persist. Singapore's forthcoming elections are receiving increased attention in Asia reporting. In Indonesia, the free meal program is under increased examination. Calls are mounting for better food safety procedures after numerous incidents of food poisoning. In Sudan, activists are accusing the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces of perpetrating an attack in Omdurman, which led to at least 30 fatalities. Large fires are raging on the hills of South Africa's Table Mountain, and helicopters are involved in efforts to extinguish the blaze. A northeast Nigeria blast in Borno State resulted in at least 26 deaths after 2 vehicles triggered an improvised explosive device. A growing number of Nigerians are reportedly leaving Christianity to embrace African spiritual traditions. Valentin Yves Mudimba, an influential African scholar who challenged Western views of Africa, has passed away at 83. Albania is grappling with a forest crisis, having lost roughly 6.5% of its forest cover in 2 decades. This loss is connected to Italy's demand for wood fuels, despite a ban on logging in Albania. In Belgium, a competition was held where individuals imitated seagulls through squawking and movements, aiming to revitalize the bird's image. Off the coast of New Zealand, a 6.2 magnitude earthquake occurred 300 kilometers southwest of Invercargill, at a depth of 10 kilometers. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.